Minecraft 1.18. The highly anticipated Caves and Cliffs Part 2 update was released today. Linked below is a lengthy video all about what's in the update and how I feel about it. One critical feature of 1.18 that I did not discuss in that video is chunk blending, as it wasn't available yet in any form. For those unaware, your entire Minecraft world is made up of 16 block long and wide chunks, all stitched together when loading a world. If you've ever heard somebody reference a chunk error before, an event caused by one of those chunks failing to save or load properly, now you know where the name comes from. Since 1.18 has now been released, I think the main concern that just about every single player is going to have is whether or not this new blending feature is going to completely destroy their world. Okay, maybe that's a bit extreme, but I think you get the idea. Long story short, blending prevents this crap from ever happening again. Any new chunks that you generate in 1.18 that border pre-existing chunks will be blended together now. But does it work? How does it work? Is it safe? Are there limits? And can we break those limits? Now we're asking the right questions. So let's go ahead and let's check it out. So let's start with the basics. You have a world that you want to load in 1.18, and you want to make sure that it's safe to do so. Right off the bat, I'm gonna tell you that it's a good idea to back up any and all worlds that you care about. If Figonometry, the first person to ever walk to Beta 1.7's Corner Farlands, can keep their 131 gigabyte world backed up, you can back up your world too. So now, let's set the stage. This is my first ever Minecraft map that I call the Peaceful Map. It's over 11 years old and was started way back in Alpha 1.2. While I've not updated the content of this map since November of 2013, around the time 1.7 was released, I actually did a pretty difficult upgrade to the map in June of this year while dealing with really aggressive chunk loading problems in versions beyond 1.12. This map means a lot to me, and I wanted to ensure those who came across it in modern times could enjoy it to the fullest extent possible. For the first demonstration, I've used a program called Amulet to prune everything beyond a 10 by 30 chunk area surrounding the spawn point, so we know exactly where the chunk borders will be. I've also changed the biomes within those chunks to either be a forest biome or an ocean biome, as it used to all be one massive plains biome. With the world ready for 1.18, let's go ahead and let's fire it up. Upon loading up the world, a few things are immediately obvious, one of which is that nothing has gone catastrophically wrong. If anything, I am seriously impressed as to how well this has worked. So how does it work? What behavior should you look out for? Well, first off, Minecraft 1.18's blending will not change any blocks within pre-existing chunks at all. All of the blending happens within new 1.18 chunks only, which prevents naturally generated structures on the edge of your old world from blending in with the new terrain. For the sake of demonstration, I intentionally created this scenario behind my mountain house's entrance by removing the chunks behind it. As you can see here, the blending just works. It doesn't attempt to blend straight up the wall or anything weird like that. The only place where things went sort of wrong is at my minecart bridge, where the blocks underneath it meet up with the new terrain in sort of a weird way. But even that isn't a major problem. As we continue to look around, we can very clearly see where the old and new terrain meet within the ocean biome, but that's only because worlds generated before Beta 1.8 have no underwater block variety, and their sea level was set one block higher than in all versions after, meaning it's another problem you're not likely to deal with. The only place you are likely to notice a significant difference is when terrain of extremely differing heights are forced to blend together, in which case the blending will look a little overly smooth. Now hang on a minute. While flying around some more, I found a straight line of sand where the old terrain meets up with the new terrain. What gives? Is this a bug? Is this something that you'll have to deal with? Again, no. 1.18's chunk blending pays attention to what biomes actually exist next to the terrain that it will be blending with. This instance of my pixel map was all forest and ocean before blending, so let's run an experiment outside of the pixel map. To see how this will actually look in practice, let's generate a normal world in 1.17, move around a bit so that the world isn't a perfect square of chunks, close the world, swap out the level data file with that of a 1.17 single biome ice spikes world, and then load it up in 1.18. So long as you don't load the world a second time in 1.17, Minecraft 1.18 will blend the normal terrain with a new ice spikes biome, because as far as Minecraft 1.18 is concerned, it's just blending what it thinks is a 1.17 single biome ice spikes world. As you can see now, there are no solid lines of blocks anywhere. If this were just a normal 1.17 world loaded in 1.18 without the level data file changes, it might be difficult to tell that anything happened at all. And that's kind of the point. One last note I'll make above ground is that structures that were queued to spawn within 1.17, but that appear within 1.18 seem to follow the shape of what the terrain would have been in 1.17, resulting in this absolutely hilarious floating village that occurred with the world that I just generated. Above ground is not the only point of contention with chunk blending, however, so let's go underground, where things get messy, but reasonably so. As I mentioned before, blending will not mess with pre-existing chunks. If a new cave does coincidentally meet up with an old cave, and or if the old cave is big enough, some blending does occur within those new chunks, but it isn't much. Using Amulet again, we can see where the 1.17 cave systems for this world end and what that looks like in-game in 1.18. The cave systems of old and new do not line up at all, plain and simple. That really does explain everything that's going on above bedrock, so let's go below bedrock. All bedrock blocks that used to exist between a Y level of 0 and 4 have been replaced with deep slate now. Because the bottom bedrock layer was always supposed to be solid, nothing will ultimately connect through this barrier within your old world chunks. But seeing as absolutely everything below a Y level of 0 is brand new on both new and old chunks, everything below 0 generates just like you would expect for 1.18, with no chunk blending artifacts impacting this area at all. If you do upgrade your world, but you don't want to venture out too far, and you want to see something new, consider adventuring downwards. If you watch my videos a lot, then you probably know what's coming next. I'm going to try and break chunk blending. Keyword, try. If you've enjoyed the video up to this point though, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. As you've seen throughout this video, chunk blending works really quite well, but there are some things that we can try. First off, you know how I've been swapping level data files around throughout this entire video? Well, if we take this instance of the pixel map, but slap in the level data file for a floating island ice spikes world, we get this. This is awesome. The pixel map almost looks like a hidden valley amongst the floating ice spikes chaos. The actual terrain blending among the old chunk border is a little bit rough with this broken setting, even with the seed being the same, but I can tell you from experience that this result is really inconsistent and heavily world dependent. I could probably do this all day long with a variety of different level data settings, so let's get crazy. Using the same program as before, I'm going to delete a checkerboard pattern of chunks and change the level data file to that of a 1.17 Caves Crimson Forest preset. Upon loading up that world, what? Yeah, the caves preset no longer works properly in 1.18, nor is it even an option when creating a new world in 1.18 anymore. Even though the Crimson Forest blocks aren't here, the actual blending amongst the nether shape works pretty well, all things considered. For now, let's try 2 more items that I think you're all gonna want to see. First, taking a 1.17 super flat world and blending it with a normal 1.18 world. This works far better than I would have expected it to, and it provides us with a nice perspective of how the whole process works. Even when blending is forced to work under such extreme circumstances, for the most part, it just does. So last up, and one I really think you're all going to want to see, is the Farlands. Using an old Minecraft 1.15 mod that I've shown off before, I've forced the Farlands back into existence and forced them to generate only 47 blocks from the spawn point. After doing so, I reloaded the world into 1.18, flew to where the Farlands chunks would end, and wow. This is everything that I expected it to be. And while I might be out of time for today's video, this really does show just how many possibilities there are when tinkering around with Minecraft 1.18's new chunk blending feature. Are you gonna update your worlds to 1.18? Are you gonna try anything out that you saw today? Let me know in the comments section down below, and thanks for watching.